Hello, this is Hao Zheng from University of Pennsylvania School of Design. I'm here to present our latest paper, Lightweight Structures on Geometric Equilibrium in Dragonfire Wings. This paper is one of our research papers that we use geometric methods, for example, graphic statics, to understand the natural structures, taking Dragonfire Wings as an example. Previously, bioscientists have done research on the different properties of the dragonfly wings. For example, they care about the nanostructure of the wing, also the detailed drawing of the wing, and some also care about the overall geometry and the fabrication method of the wing. Some aerodynamic measurements, also some functional measurements could also be measured according to some research. Also, there are some design-related research, for example, the mimicry of the wing as a flying machine, also some materialization research on the dragonfly wings. Generally speaking, previous research only cares about the description of the dragonfly wings, so they don't have a very clear understanding of the intrinsic logic of the wing. Also, it's still unclear on how nature designs this kind of structure. So our research wants to analyze the dragonfly wings from the structural point of view to see whether we can have some new understandings of the structure of the dragonfly wings. So firstly, we want to introduce the graphic statics method that we can transform the force on the form between each other. So in figure A, we can see that the form diagram on the left is transformed into the force diagram in the right. Each cells in the form can be transformed into a node in the force. Each edge in the form is perpendicular to the corresponding edge in the force. This figure shows the situation in the dragonfly wings. So figure A represents the actual wings as the image with the structural sinkers. Figure B shows the form diagram of the structural wings without the structural sinkers as the vector-based geometry. Figure C represents the corresponding force diagram of the form. The entire dragonfly wings can be regarded as two parts. One is the internal members, and one is the boundary members with the membrane. If we regard the entire structural wings as a self-stressed form, then the internal form can be regarded as a compression-only form, while the boundary members as well as the membrane can be regarded as the tension-only form. So by using our graphic statistics method, we can transform the compression-only internal form into the internal force diagram, while the external force diagram can represent an abstract of the membrane as triangulated faces. Except for the external members, we care more about the internal members in this research. So we want to see whether we can prove our assumption by using graphic statistics method to generate to analyze the wing structure. So firstly, we have the entire wing in figure A, but we remove the boundary of the wing and we adjust some cells, non-convex cells into convex cells so that the structure can be understood and can be applied by the method of graphic statistics as figure E. Then, with the geometric form of the internal structure, we can use our tool, polyframe, to find the force diagram of this form. So firstly, we can get the vertices of the force based on the cells in the form. Then we use our tools to act more like a particle system to optimize the position of the vertex to make the corresponding edges to be perpendicular. Then finally, with iterative solutions, we can gradually get the force diagram of the form of the internal form to satisfy the tolerance in our tool set. These two figures shows the transformation between the Formtoforce diagram. So the top figure shows the Formtoforce transformation that we can get the force diagram from the form, and the average deviation is 2.64 degrees. The bottom figure shows the Formtoforce deviation, in which we have a smaller deviation of 0.64. So these two figures shows that actually we can get the force diagram from the form, and then get the form diagram again from the force with a very small deviation. Then we can use the length in the force diagram to represent the force magnitude of each member in the form diagram. Thus, we can generate the structural sequence of the form diagram for each member. So figure A shows the generated structural form in our system. The figure B shows the original form in the Dragonfire wings. We can compare those forms to see whether they have some commonalities, then to prove that whether our assumption is correct. As the comparison method, we use the radius to represent whether they are correct or not. So in our generating method, we can directly measure the radius since it's a geometric form. Then we have the radius information. Then for each corresponding members in the real form, we can measure the pixel count. Then we have a ratio to transform it into the radius as a value. Then we compare this value to see whether they are whether they match or not. Then we have accuracy as theta to represent the measurements of this accuracy. Using the same method, we further proceed 6 wings as this figure shows, so we can visually see that they are very similar. This table shows the statistics of the 6 wings. So these 6 wings are from different parts of the dragonfly. For example, they are either male or female, or they are from the top wings or from bottom wings. But generally speaking, the deviation of the Formtoforce and the form process is very small. For example, the average deviation of the Formtoforce process is 2.77 degrees. The average deviation of the force to form, they are much smaller, of the 0.67 degrees. But what's interesting is that the overall accuracy for all these 6 parts, they are nearly 92%, which means we can actually generate the structural sequence with a very high accuracy. From the experiments above, we can actually conclude our workflow as this figure. So firstly, we have the internal structure as the original wings image. Then we assume that it's a computation form. Then we extract the internal vector-based geometry of the form. Then we use our graphic static method to get a force diagram, map the force magnitude as the structural sequence to the original form diagram. Then we can have the structural form. So if we see that if we compare the structural form and the Dragonfire wings image, then we find there's a match, then we can say that our assumption is proven. Then we can actually conclude the force pattern as a computation form. Then we can use the force diagram as another representative of our form diagram. Besides the conclusions I introduced above, there are some shortcomings of this research. For example, we are still not clear about the external loading scenarios. We assume that there is a compression-only form for the internal structure, but we are not sure whether our assumption about the tension-only form for the boundary and the member is correct or not. We are not sure whether we can actually abstract the membrane with triangulated faces. So the next step might related to the combination of the external and internal force diagram. Then we can work on that together to find the entire force diagram of the Dragonfire wings. Then we can proceed this force diagram into further research. Thank you for listening. We are in the progress of publishing more works related to the Dragonfire wings, its structural analysis. Also, we want to combine our research in machine learning to generate the structural wings as a force diagram. So if you are interested in our further research, feel free to visit our polyhedral structural laboratory, and also feel free to contact us. Thank you.